I married a broken man to fix him, but his clinical confession of crushing baby bunnies barehanded forced a single, suffocating question: am I nursing a survivor or hand-feeding a predator? The nursery smells of warm milk and talcum powder, but my hands won't stop vibrating against my thighs. I'm wedged on the floorboards between two cribs, spine grinding into the drywall, tracking the shallow bellows of lungs too young to know danger. Thayer, both under 3. Soft, oblivious to the man breathing down the hall. For the last 12 hours, my diaphragm has locked in a rhythmic spasm. I dry heave nothing into a trash bag. My vision pinwheels, then the crash, total nervous shutdown. Blank, heavy, dead. I didn't marry for romance, I signed a triage contract. He smelled like 10W30 oil and fractured ribs, and I convinced myself my loyalty could act as splints. The moment my daughter's umbilical cord was cut, the blueprint inverted. He wanted fatherhood as a concept. The screaming reality fractured his posture. His trapezius muscles bunched to his ears at the first wail. Jaw locked, molars grinding loud enough to rattle the hallway photos. I memorized the rule immediately: never leave them unattended. Not for a shower, not to vomit. His stress didn't flare, it detonated into a physical recoil that sucked the oxygen from the room. I caught him standing over the bassinet, eyes vacant, and my own childhood trauma flashed a hazard light. I stopped seeing a husband. I saw a loaded chamber. Tuesday was supposed to be an IUD appointment. Instead, I walked out of a clinic with a second positive test crushing in my fist. Copper panic flooded my mouth. I told him. He didn't weep. He laced his steel toes. We took a walk through the rotting woods behind our complex, damp soil squelching under our boots. He stopped mid-path. The wind died. He spoke to a patch of moss. Head hurt something. Said it was fragile. Said it crossed a boundary it shouldn't have. His voice didn't waver, it was flat, diagnostic, like reading a torque specification. He wasn't confessing a mistake. He was reporting a procedure. I didn't bolt. I went home, washed his grease-stained flannel, and booked the intake appointments myself. I bled our grocery budget for a year of therapy chairs. I swallowed the flight reflex because my own abandoned childhood swore that walking out was the ultimate sin. But the marriage didn't just cool. It fossilized. We moved in parallel orbits, touching only to pass a diaper. The silence between us wasn't peaceful, it was pressurized. I became a ghost in my own home, stepping over tripwires only I could see. His compulsions metastasized into environmental dictatorship. A crooked picture frame triggered 40 minutes of aggressive realignment. A water ring on the table meant 3 hours of scouring while he muttered arithmetic under his breath. I learned to hold my breath until my ribs cracked. Outside, head sit on the porch steps with saucers of premium tuna, whispering to alley cats in a register he never offered me. He preached conservation. He talked about preserving innocence. Then I caught the way his pupils tracked a passing sparrow. Not affection, target acquisition. Yesterday, a dropped pacifier and a slammed drawer shattered the stalemate. I finally asked the question poisoning my throat: am I just a placeholder for his rehabilitation? The overhead fluorescence seemed to hum louder. He didn't shout. He didn't flinch. He just turned. The manic energy evaporated, leaving a chilling, surgical stillness. He offered me the raw data, said he was done performing stability, said he'd drop the armor if I could handle the weight. I braced for addiction relapse or financial ruin. What he described instead was anatomy. He crushed them, deliberately, not a reflex, a nest behind the old shed. He described the exact resistance of cartilage and the specific pressure required to silence them. The words hit my sternum like lead weights. My knees dissolved into water, and I hit the linoleum. Peripheral sight collapsed into a narrowing gray tunnel. When the static cleared, he was crouching, voice muffled, asking if ID hit my head. My brain, however, had already rewired a memory from 3 months ago. The phone call wasn't a plea for advice. It was a dry run. I replayed the conversation, stripping the naive gloss off the tape. Head asked about a wild rabbit nest. ID told him about maternal return patterns, about patience, about trusting nature's timeline. He hadn't been confused. He was stress testing my boundaries, measuring how much violence my empathy would absorb before rejecting him. I handed him the psychological alibi. I told him when to strike. My compassion didn't just enable him. I authored his permission slip. The puzzle pieces snapped into a grotesque mosaic. The limping dog near the pumps, the kittens beneath the vinyl siding. Every call followed the same script: hesitation, moral probing, waiting for my trauma-bonded reassurance. He wasn't seeking a moral compass. He was calibrating his targeting parameters, exploiting my desperate need to fix broken things against the only things that couldn't fight back. The man who bought organic tuna was the same man who practiced suffocation on the weak. The therapist's progress notes read like fiction. They see emotional regulation and breakthrough integration. I see a predator practicing camouflage in a controlled lab. I'm 30. I have 2 infants who reach for his shadow with open palms. I'm supposed to be the supportive anchor, but every boot step on the hardwood sends cortisol flooding my veins. Every reach toward a crib makes my bladder clench. Staying isn't loyalty anymore. It's drafting the first chapter of my children's PTSD. I'm typing this with my back against the wall, the baby monitor casting a sickly green hue over my knees. He's likely in bed, reading cognitive behavioral worksheets, mistaking this confession for catharsis. He thinks we turned a corner. He doesn't realize I'm already drafting an exit strategy. Vanish. Diaper bags pre-packed. Car seats clicked into the sedan. No note. No confrontation. Just a ghost slipping out before the mask comes off. I don't know the route. I only know the destination. The paralysis is burning off. The hollow space in my chest is filling with adrenaline and cold geometry. My hands tremble, but they're plotting now. The recovery I funded was never about healing. It was about expanding his operational perimeter. He thinks the worst is over because he finally admitted the method. But the moment he realizes the test subject is leaving the cage, the experiment turns lethal. I move at 3 a.m. Silent. Absolute.
Dr. Julian Reed, what you've just described is a clinical red flag cascading into a survival imperative. We're looking at Zoosadism overlaid with trauma displacement. This isn't a moral failing, it's a neurological rerouting of past helplessness onto defenseless targets. Your somatic collapse, the dry heaving, the pinwheeling vision, the sudden nervous system shutdown. These aren't dramatic exaggerations. They're your autonomic nervous system rejecting a threat your conscious mind was conditioned to tolerate. You married quickly, carrying your own abandonment wounds, hoping love could function as a tourniquet. But a tourniquet doesn't stop the infection. When a therapy client confesses to deliberate, hands-on termination of vulnerable life after actively calibrating your empathy thresholds, the clinical question shifts. We're no longer asking if recovery is possible. We're asking what collateral damage you're willing to risk while waiting for the answer. The affection he shows the strays isn't genuine compassion, it's compartmentalization. It's a pressure valve. He's not loving animals, he's managing his own capacity for violence. Therapy provides structure, but it doesn't grant immunity. In fact, without immediate boundary enforcement, the therapeutic setting can inadvertently become a rehearsal space for the very behaviors you fear. You're dissociating because the cognitive dissonance has become physically toxic. Sobbing is your baseline humanity trying to surface through a layer of trauma bonding. So here's the hard line when a partner's healing requires you to normalize predation. Your loyalty isn't virtue, it's complicity. You cannot hold space for a predator's rehabilitation while simultaneously offering your children as potential practice targets. The numbness is your psyche buying you time. The fear is your intuition finally speaking. The only ethical calculus remaining is extraction. How far does your obligation to his trauma extend before it violates your children's right to safety? At what point does supporting his journey become the blueprint for their destruction? Silence isn't peacekeeping here. It's the foundation of the next tragedy.